Afatai Adidichi from University of Ibadan. So I'm presenting on behalf of my group. Yeah, we are working on energy security, governance quality, and economic performance in Sub-Saharan Africa. And as we know, economic performance is very key to any country's development or region. And as a result of that, so countries or region try to strive as much as possible to achieve stable, strong economic performance. And please, can you move to the next slide? Okay, next one. That's just the outline. Yeah, so this leads us to the introduction and research issue. And we know over the years, country has been working seriously to achieve stable, high, stable, and sustainable economic growth over the years. And as a result of that, Sub-Saharan African region also are making effort to achieve that because economic growth is a prerequisite to any country's development. So if you look at the World Development Indicators, so the data from there on economic growth over the years in Sub-Saharan Africa shows that between 2000 and 2004, we can see that the growth rate increased from 2.5 to 6.7%. And in 2020, we can see within that period from 2014, the growth declined to minus 2.0, so showing recession. And this shows the checkered growth the Sub-Saharan African region has been experiencing over time. In a situation whereby you cannot guarantee long-run growth, which requires high, stable, and sustainable growth. So it may be very difficult for such region to address developmental challenges. So what do we now bring on board is to try to see how can energy security can serve as a solution to achieve stable growth. And beyond that, how can government, in terms of governance quality, can enhance energy security to achieve stable growth over the time? So please, can you move to the next slide? No, you can continue. Yeah, you can continue. Just go to literature review. So on the literature review, yeah, there are mounting evidence on the relationship between energy and economic growth. So studies have tried to classify the relationship between energy and growth into different hypotheses. As you can see, growth hypothesis, neutrality hypothesis, feedback hypothesis, and conservation hypothesis. So in summary, some that analyze the impact of energy consumption on economic growth. So there are mixed results where some people are saying, oh, energy consumption has promoted growth, and while some said the energy consumption does not promote growth. So these are the debates. And also studies have went further to try to create an index on energy security. Some call it energy security index. Please, can you move to the next slide? So that is which captures the uninterrupted flow of energy to meet demand of the global economy at affordable price. So here they are talking about affordability in their own measure, and at the same time looking at the demand-supply gap, so which can be classified under availability. So, and also the recent study by Ley and Jungen in 2019, just a recent study, so we try to probe further to have comprehensive definition of what we mean by energy security. And they use 10 measures to capture energy security. But in our own case, so we are trying to propose an index, so which can better explain what we mean by energy security. Then we can now go further to look at the impact on economic growth. So please, can you move to the next slide? You can move to the next slide. So, okay, on the methodological framework, so we just use simple solo growth model, 1956. So what we do here is just to augment the model by introducing the role of energy security into the model, we can see Y as a function of capital, effective labor, and energy security. So in a Cobb-Douglas production function, so just taking the the log of it, we linearize the model for us. So we try to extend it to the econometric model by accounting for control variables and our error time. So, and the second one, the second model we are seeing there is trying to capture the last one. It's trying to capture the role of the governance quality in the energy security and economic performance relationship. Can we move to the next slide, please? Oh, this is the structure for our energy security. And as we can see, it captures affordability, acceptability, accessibility, availability, and developmentability. So, Lee and Eugen in 2019 captured this. But what they do is to use like two variables to represent each of them. And this can be what? Misleading and complex for people to understand when they want to look at what do you mean by availability. So that's why we are trying to use these different variables to now compute a single index that can measure each of them. For affordability and accessibility, there's no index for that. We only have single indicators for them. So, but for acceptability, developmentability, and availability, so this is where we come in and try to create an index for each of them so that in total we have what? 5 index instead of having 10 index. So for the affordability, what we use is standard deviation of oil price because we think that when there's oil price volatility, it creates uncertainties around energy demand and macroeconomic environment. And for the accessibility, so for the accessibility, what we use is just to look at the difference between energy consumption, primary energy consumption and the primary energy production. So the difference, which captures the variability of imports, because if your demand is higher, in the case of Nigeria now, so if the domestic production is low, so in order to augment your demand, you have to increase your import of oil. So that's what we did there. So on the main business, which is the acceptability, so what we did, we used 2 indicators to create an index, which is non-fossil energy consumption and energy intensity of primary energy. So we use these 2 indicators to create an index for acceptability. And this tries to measure energy efficiency, since now people are discussing about moving from fossil fuel to non-fossil fuel. So which means that if there's increase in non-fossil energy, then it means that we are moving closer to clean energy. So on the availability, so here we use 2 indicators too. The ratio of primary energy production to primary energy consumption. And the second one is the ratio of primary energy production to population. So we can see, so the number of your population with respect to our production, so we give us what? It gives us per capita in terms of production. So for the consumption, so it also gives us a per capita in terms of consumption. So these 2 will determine how much the energy is available to people, and also try to tell us the gap between the demand and supply of energy, and as well capture the equality of energy resources. Developmentability, here we use ratio of primary energy consumption to population and CO2 emission. So, the objective here is to see how much a country or a region like Sub-Saharan Africa can sustain energy, but at the same time, too, maintain clean environment in terms of reduction in environmental pollution. So these are the 3 things we try to add to the literature. And the second part, which is governance quality, here also we try to create index from the World Government indicators, try to to structure the 6 index into 3. The first one is economic index, political index, and institutional index, which capture all dimensions of governance quality. So please, can we move? So, okay, we can move. Yeah, so let me quickly go to empirical results. So for the methodology, we use PPML, which is Poisson syndrome maximum likelihood model techniques. And these techniques it account for missing data, or in a case where you have zero data and complex heteroscedasticity. So this method tries to account for that, and it's also simple to interpret. That's why we move a little bit away from what is usual, like fixed effect model or random effect model or heterogeneous panel model. And our data is between 2000 and 2020. So that's what we capture. Also interestingly, the PPML also capture the fixed effects. So which means that we can also include what? The variability of country into the model. So from our empirical results, so starting with accessibility and affordability of energy security. So we find both positive and negative relationship respectively. So we're showing that reliance on oil import contributes to economic performance in the region. Yes, we see that despite that the region is resource rich, we still find countries, for instance, like Nigeria, importing their final petroleum products from outside. So most of this country rely on the import to provide energy for firms and consumers. And on the second one, so we find out that high oil price volatilities create huge uncertainty for energy demand and supply needed to sustain productivity. So when there is high oil price volatility, so it's very difficult for firms to really plan their production process, and also it will also be very difficult for consumer also to plan their consumption or their expenditure at household level. So on the second one, which is the accessibility and availability, we also find negative and positive effects respectively. So showing that low non-fossil energy and energy intensity have drag effect on economic performance. So in a case where the fossil fuel is high and the proportion of non-fossil fuel is low, so this affects our acceptability that we are talking about in terms of achieving clean environments, and at the same time providing enough energy for firm and household. And the last one is the last on this slide is reduction of energy gap and energy sustainability and equality foster economic performance, which is in terms of availability. Interestingly, in Sub-Saharan Africa, we only find that out of these 5 indicators, is only developmentability and availability that foster economic performance in SSA country. And furthermore, the governance indicators also positively enhance economic performance, because we can see over the years many Sub-Saharan African countries are now moving to democracy, and in one way or the other, these are effects on economic performance, because people can now we have voice and accountability. There is also Human Rights Watch and so on and so forth. So as a result of this, these have led to improvements in economic performance. But in terms of the indirect impact of governance quality, okay, thank you. So in terms of the impact of governance, indirect impact of governance quality, we found out that is only availability measure of energy security that governance quality enhance. But on other measures, so the impact of governance quality is still relatively low with respect to Sub-Saharan Africa. So the concluding remark here is that the governance structures need to be strengthened in order to develop or to, let me say, improve on other dimension of energy security. Thank you very much.